going off of SB3, how much student involvement was there in the creation and the writing of this new strategic?
Good position. Through SB3 and SB1, SB2. Sure. Now remember, before 12 years ago, this institution had nothing. No strategic plan.
Really?
Ever.
Seems a little...
Yes, thank you. A little baffling. You have to have a strategic plan. You have to know at least where you're going. A map, a guideline. It may shift a little bit, but you need some guidelines of where you're going, some aspirations.
It's not even a 10 or 20-year plan? Nothing like that?
0.
Okay.
All right? So, for all the plans, we've used the campus governance system, which actually was put into play when I was here as a student. And that governance system, using the all-campus committee system, and then its spin-outs, that was put into play in the, I guess, 60s, 70s, because students had absolutely no voice, no engagement. So it was the move to give student engagement. Now, that played itself out in SP3 specifically in the following way. There was a subcommittee that was a spin-off of, or subsumed in planning and budget. There were student representatives on that subcommittee. The subcommittee then spoke about the plan to the other committees, all campus committees, where there also were students on those committees. Now, that then went to several other opportunities for students. Firstly, when the plan was in draft form, there were 2 all-campus, all calls to all constituencies to come and talk with the committee about the plan. That was open to students, that was open to faculty, and I attended both of those. It was rather interesting. And then the plan, as has always happened, was posted in Gateway.
Sure.
And we asked students to comment, as you would in any kind of democratic republic situation, that please send in your comments. We'll work with those and see where it goes in the form of governance. So if you take that comparatively, that's pretty extensive, continuous engagement in the writing of something like a strategic plan.
Now, but I guess in terms of actual, I mean, it's definitely wonderful that, it was up on Gateway, and I guess that was a good strategy, but within Senate, I feel like after talking to numerous senators and both in very high positions and also low-level senators and even class representatives, they feel like that they are a purely reactionary body and that they don't really have that much say in college policy, and that there's very little checks and balances where, if the administration wants to do something, let's say they have an opinion on SB3 that there's about $35 million being spent over the next 5 years into upgrading academic buildings and upgrading the hub and the Klein. If the school said, we want 5 years, we don't do this in 5 years, but the Senate said, we want this in 7 years so we can allocate some of this money in other places. If the administration truly wanted to do it, there would be no... Well,
I think you're focusing on a little bit, first of all, that's a good point, very good point. I think, firstly, the senators, we will send the senators, they must speak up. I mean, we've been working on this for a long time, and that is the senators speaking up, going back to the Senate, saying what is going on, coming back with robust voices. All that is welcome. We're waiting to hear that. The other element, of course, is the administration has a boss. And the boss would be the trustees.
Okay.
The trustees own the college. Administration does not own the college. So the trustees also, it's governance, it's normal governance that you'll get out in the wider world. There are a whole lot of forces that are at this. How do we even know we're going to get this money? You say we're going to get $35 million. Yes, we hope so, but how are we going to raise it? And so we have to sort of figure that out with voices, a lot of different voices playing into this to see if it's even possible.
It's tough, I guess, for me just to imagine that, well, the way that at least I envision is it seems like it's more of like a, if I can use this analogy, that it's like an autocratic system where these trustees, are there and they have funds.
They own the institution.
Sure, but
they own the institution.
Like with the redoing of the hub, You know,
Right.
if someone thinks if that's not necessary to do, you know, within the next, you know, 2 years, in fact, just to expand it and perhaps focus that money on expanding class options and majors and hiring more professors. You know, it feels like that they have that power and they have that say. They can do this, but there's no
Well, they listen.
Senate oversight.
No, remember, no, oversight. Now, how can it be oversight that people
Or that,
own?
or Senate voice in
Well, they have a voice,
trustees.
but remember, Ian, I went before the Senate, the entire Senate, in the state of the college, and outlined what was being proposed. So they had a perfect opportunity to say, hold it, how did you get there? What do you mean? Why don't we do this? And then have arguments for it.
I mean, I know this to be through my vast experience of working on different advisory boards and just through all my my outreach to the school, that I know that the student body views Senate as kind of like a lame duck organization, or that is purely
Well, now
reactionary.
that's an issue, and a very interesting issue.
But I think that
Why is that?
because I think that Senate doesn't have that much power, and I think that the
Well,
students.
what kind of power would you like?
Well, I would like to see them have a greater amount of funds. I mean, so far, the only thing that I can see Senate doing is really approving student organizations and giving them funding.
So are you going to pay the faculty? Are you going to build buildings? Or what would you
I mean, I would like to see
do?
them have a say. I think that, you know, if we, the student body, when we come here, it's obviously generational. But at least when I came here, Dickinson was, it was shown to me as a poli-sci school. School was very strong in political science, history, English, and I mean, yes, there was strong sciences, but it wasn't the school to go to if you wanted to be a nuclear physicist.
Right.
But you know, during my time here, the Rector Science Building was built, and that was a huge
Commitment?
and you know, it was, I guess it was weird for me at least to see that large investment in there, but within political science, it seems like they were drawing upon a lot of the similar classes. I've seen a lot of redundancies in the classroom, and that to me is very frustrating, especially as tuition goes up. And you know, when I have taken a class and I feel like I've learned the same information 3 or 4 times over, that to me is troubling, and I don't know.
And that's something certainly to be considered. But I can tell you that the plans for the science opportunities have been in planning for well over 12 years. That just didn't happen. That was a long series of demands and needs and discussions. It just didn't happen. And each entity, in an institution this old, each entity gets its time. Each entity gets its possibility. You just happen to be here when we're reinforcing the science. And before that, there was much discussion from students and others, these are terrible facilities. They're not working. There's danger. We had to redo that. And it just matched where we got a significant gift to help pay for it that was dedicated to the sciences. So, but your questions are absolutely appropriate.